Thank you so much to Dugade and Keg for getting us through that one. Hi, hey, hello. My name is Tanner Metro. I am joined by my good friend Zephyr here. And Zephyr, we have made it a banger of a matchup in the lower final.
It's been a banger of an initial day, going into day 2 as well. Mahjong and Krill and Buffetjors is what we expected to see deep into the embers, the final moments of the Downtown Showdown Tournament 2, and instead, only one of these teams gets the opportunity to move it forward.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And this is, it's a matchup that both of these teams, they're no strangers to one another. Although they live across the pond from each other, just the other day we saw them face off head to head. We saw them get into a tricky grand finals that ended in a peculiar way, we'll put it. But going into that game 3, there was a game 1 and a game 2, which both of these teams had taken off one another. I think the big thing that we talked about coming into this, right, is Buffetjors taking the quote-unquote easy road, right? They forfeit early. They move through the lower bracket. They've had some pretty, I don't want to say easy games, but this is obviously the hardest one that they can expect. And Mahjong and Krill, they've got to find themselves a reset here.
It's the opportunity to learn from the mistakes after what was a rough upper bracket finals here. Now, though, starting off, we get at least our lane assignments.
The cursed apple. We've got actually rocking that Kelvin here, usually pretty comfortable on the Ivy, but another support pick nonetheless. This Kelvin Warden lane really just going to be a few boys in the face.
It's an opportunity, though, for us to see what is capable when it comes to Piggy. Has been an excellent support in times of recently when we do see things like diving, and of course as well alongside that of the apologies, one other there with the Dynamo. Notably, though, the sustain in that lane might come back to bite them as we do see things like, of course, the opposite start to scale up.
A couple of power picks in both the Wraith and the Infernus secured by Mahjong and Krill early in the draft. I feel like it kind of choked Buffetjors out of these very strong mouse ones. And, well, speaking of getting choked, Demov forced all the way back behind the power box here. That Infernus just so strong, not only in the hands of Leffa, but just where we're at in the meta and in this solo lane. That afterburn is so annoying. And right now for the pocket, no real way to punish that one in response. Hey, anybody a fan of grabbing urns? I know I am, and I'm so excited to see the Ivy because that was huge in our last matchup, right? That best of so many urns went the way of Deadlock Deep State. Mahjong and Krill looking to find ways to make sure they can get him easily.
I do want to point out the Ivy was selected, though, in response for Mahjong and Krill, and we didn't see them take the effective advantage. Instead, it's early starts for Buffetjors. The overextension expended by Leffa there with some of the early damage sustained is picked up in response. A major congratulations to Demov there, at least to start things off. It's going to be a delay of game, especially for getting some of that early soul lead. We talk about those early abilities, putting Pocket in potentially the driver's seat to build this lane back up.
Yeah, but things getting a little too loud for Shush here as he just gets run down. Rocker going to collect that one there. Now need to get out of dodge as McGinnis has been secured by Mahjong and Krill. Obviously a thorn in the side in the previous series. We'll see if it continues to be that, but in their favor this time around. So trades across the map. Obviously that Infernus a little bit behind, but finding a kill on that Warden, that doesn't feel great either. You need this Warden to eventually get beefy. You need this Warden to be a front line.
Yep. I mean, it's an issue, notably, I will say, with that Warden in terms of things we discussed regarding mobility, right? And at least for right now, Warden has been in a bit of a rougher spot, albeit can be, like we were discussing in that early draft, a potential team fight menace. But it takes time, and that's time that potentially Buffetjors don't have. We talk about extreme scalers, the Wraith, the Infernus, the major team fight potential between the Wombo. It's all going to come online in that mid game. It's going to be very, very hard for Buff if they don't get early strides here.
And Sharky also getting pressured out. Although the Infernus and Wraith are strong in their own rights, in these solo lanes against the Pocket and the Abrams, you can see the Souls. I'm going to hold that thought as Mikhail's getting a little aggressive there. Any moment that Mikhail's gets aggressive on the Paradox, you know that a kill is absolutely possible. But I wanted to talk about the shotguns, right? The gun difference in these lanes. Leffa can continue to punish, but the soul discrepancy, given the kill, but also the denies here as we've got Static Charge online. Stoneform gonna buy some time. A beautiful pulse grenade there. That's gonna stop the escape, but through the veil, the Ivy will go. So Hydration survives for now and is able to avoid the pressure there from Buff Enjoyer.
Notably with what I assume is Watch Cupler, it's a little bit more healthy there. Meanwhile, Lash potentially out the cube, though, to save the day on the other side. That's potentially re-entry, the slam from above. Piggy slowing things down, can't quite slow the bullets that come from afar. It's the perfect opportunity to bump into the corner to find two here for Mahjong and Krill.
Yeah, big pickup, a well-timed cube that helps get that Lash a little healthier to want to re-engage. And I think most importantly, they saved their ultimate in that, right? Death Slam's still available. It's got such a long cooldown, so having to use that stings. Although, use it for kills, sure, but being able to save it there is huge. That allows so much more pressure around the map should they want to choose to do so.
This is a big issue with the Warden that we've seen recently with fights. Things like that Binding Word struggle, and even with the additional range it has gained in the recent patch, it still can be a major issue. Combine it, of course, when we talk about with the cube, and it's practically ineligible in this lane phase. We might see it come in the midst of some of those team fights later in the game, but for now, not quite an option. A suitcase, though, and some extra action, a punch away there, a tick of the tower as, well, we'll look for more. D-Mob finding shots from afar, barely dodging behind the wall, doesn't quite get out.
Yeah, and I was going to say, D-Mob's on the wrong side of the map, but he makes it work. Now the time wall's out. Paradoxical Swap going to help secure the kill onto McGinnis. So two go down on the side of Mahjong and Krill, and that's going to force Sergi to back away here. 3 players now uptown Broadway looking to make something happen. Sam's in a tough spot. There it is again, though, the cube. Rocker now looking to hopefully help his teammate out. Blind through the veil, but here comes that Death Slam, bringing it right back for Mahjong and Krill, but it doesn't matter. Samps goes down, and the 3 players here for Buff Enjoyers make good on their word that they would find kills, and they do it once more.
Love the combination there. Like I talked about, this Wombo combo can be so oppressive at times. Meanwhile, Seismic from above to slam out Sharky. This is a huge delay of good action here for Mahjong and Krill. This should be their moment to be picking up so much of a Souls lead to get them into a, well, dominant spot where they pressure out these carries. Instead, taking advantage. D-Mob, though, look for response.
Yeah, and they just continue to find fights here. Mahjong and Krill, again, put in a tough spot. Stoneform keeps the Ivy alive for now. Heal comes out as well from Hawk. And now they want to try and find the response. There it is. D-Mob can't quite sneak away. Flying Cloak on cooldown means you just got to use your Chevrolet legs to get out of there, and D-Mob.
It's a shame. Invested so much there. We saw the Affliction come out as what was deep. Once again, that binding doesn't quite land out. A cube is sustained here, albeit not for notably the regen, but just for the safety on the other side. I wanted to highlight this. One major combo you got to watch out for, of course, with the binding is with that combo on the potential Lash as well there later on, getting slowed out. Meanwhile, Lefa. We've seen Demon take the lane, string what I can only assume is major amp.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if had spotted Mikhail's in this lane and then didn't spot the pocket coming out and over the top, or they just thought it was the inverse and that the pocket was getting a little too aggressive and thought they could punish. But either way, Buff Enjoyers finding themselves another take down Lefa once more, and they're really trying to stunt the growth of this Infernus and that Afterburn that rips through any Spirit Resist available come that later game.
Behind by Beta on 800 souls there. The Guardian being down, though, of course, over in our, I believe, Park side. Or your notably, it will end up in delaying what could be farm potential, but if we really take a look at it, it is only a 300 soul difference. He's still, even with the deaths that go alongside this Infernus, is keeping it a bit stable. That's not quite the shutdown I'd be looking for right now.
And camps now available here. That 7-minute mark. All of these tier 2s come online. Here we go. Airdrop looking to make a play. D-Mov now going to find himself at a disadvantage. Flying Cloak, though, should help him sneak away. No, doesn't actually get to the cloak. Forced inside the satchel. So much invested, but a kill has been found. That's the concussive combustion and the airdrop used there. Mikhail's hoping to pick something up on the way out, but alone in this Paradox. Can't find too much as gets deep into enemy lines, but is able to back away. Nobody feeling safe enough to punish with the rotation.
Yeah, notably, it is not really the best setup to take advantage of the three-man pressure put over there on the side towards York Avenue. Notably, that would be your moment to potentially push forward and secure some of these Guardians that you've left sit, and instead, it is a complete split on the side due to the laning phase for buff enjoyers, so they never really get to take advantage. Granted, we could see that change as the game goes on, but it's a small moment, a 20-second window where you potentially had the opportunity to even out that trade.
Guardian for Guardian, so AP should be relatively close. You mentioned it, Mahjong and Krill having a lead, and I said these camps are up. Buff enjoyers trying to enjoy those camps. But Mahjong and Krill looking to be a thorn in the side. This Kelvin slow, so huge there, going to force the Lash out of the fight. Rocker force use a cube on himself, and here comes the Frozen Dome. And unfortunately, my friend, it does not seem there's any way out for you. Healthy, though. Viscous still alive, survives the fight from rescue beam to safety, and a Guardian here means they don't want to go any deeper. Here comes the Lash. The wall goes up, and there's no escape for the buff enjoyers as they dash away into the sewers. Listic, not long for this world. He'll send a giant left hook with the book. It'll go down at the end of the day. A huge turnaround for Mahjong and Krill.
It's big there. We do see some sustained damage on Guardians. In the meanwhile, have to Carol is, of course, the static charge expended on the other side to send out Lefa, but in return, we are seeing bits of the buff enjoyers peeled apart here, stuck in the corner. Hydration, little but nowhere to go. It's only the damage that keeps things chugging along. Finally, Lefa there for the response is going.
Kill found around the map. One in response, but I mean, if you tally that up, essentially a 5-for-1 over the last minute and a half.
It's a massive lead for them. Mahjong and Krill, of course, with that initial team fight, taking advantage of the overextension into capitalizing on the delay there. Notably, we do see some minor pickups with Guardians, of course, towards the side of York and Greenwich, but ultimately, it's going to come at the cost of Souls leads. We're now 10K up, notably, up for the side of Mahjong and Krill. And remember, it was something they struggled to truly in this finals. It was always a 3 to 4K difference. Big team fights like that, as early as they may be, can be a difference.
And they have secured, well, they've got the urn. They've got the frog-legged urn on the back of Rocker here. They still got to move it the other half of the map. As we have, the map has been removed, but we are back. It doesn't look like a whole lot of response here from Buff and Joyce. I think they know, right? Like, Mahjong and Krill, if they choose the fight, it's not going to be good for buff enjoyers, right? And that's what Mahjong and Krill are saying. They're pushing the pace. Hey, we're going to grab the urn, get this, which is, or you're here, and that's also huge for our team. So they get nice and set up to secure this one. Wall just
perfect
to cross your T's and dot your I's, and it will be that urn secured and that lead growing from 10K now to 14K, Zephyr.
I mean, early starts here do look good for Krill, especially after what this last matchup game now. Where are we putting and allocating a lot of that gold? I had questions. We knew for a fact we were going to see Listic on this Abrams explode time. It is from some on the 7 who finds the remnants of where the lead also sits alongside McHale's. Now, I am curious, given the fact that we put the precedent on Furnace on Mahjong and Krill earlier, Evan might not have the potential either minor souls that is, in my opinion, still somewhat equivalent to our other scalers on Mahjong and Krill to actually make good impact. Only time will tell, though. Still a plenty of minutes to go in this game.
Yeah, we'll have to check the 7's build, right? 7 started, I'm just going to slam my ult, and then people started to play around that. And then, you know what, my power surge is pretty good. I can just mouse one everybody. Then it went to that support 7, and now that support based on right power surge 7 match, left click potential. Hey, I don't know who's good at using the goo ball, but this is all I use it for, so I'm happy to see that Rocker does just the same. Hey, let's just speed up and get out of here, get our stuff.
Full read. We'll say eastern side of the city here. This is going to be probably one of the first secured walk in as they'll look for response, but that's not the team fight. That's a big utility wasted.
Yeah, huge util down here. 2 players trying to defend this one. I say defend, but it's not a whole lot. But there is a trade on the opposite side. How much more do they want to take? Mahjong and Krill investing 4 to try and get this Walker, or 3, excuse me, and they haven't gotten it just yet. Now they have. Do they look to take the fight moving forward? Piggy gonna back away, playing really safe alongside D-Mob, and unfortunately, Listic, you cannot say the same. Listic goes down Uptown Broadway, and this might be another Walker falling in favor of Mahjong and Krill.
Huge sustain there. Big reasons to have, of course, Guinness online to just continue to sustain this outside of the minion waves with their crash. Piggy might return, notably with the Kelvin, but the job is done. Flex slot on board here almost immediately there in response. It's a big pickup, big win, and once again, an extension on that major soul lead.
The head blue pin. Wait, 5 players make it 6. Down to the corner. There's only 4 for Buff Enjoyers right here. And caught inside the globe is Samch and Piggy. The Kelvin able to back away. Good pulse grenade. That's going to stop the entrance here from Mahjong and Krill. And Mikael might have done just enough single-handedly with one ability to stop Mahjong and Krill from pushing into that enclosed area and finding kills on Buff Enjoyers. So big ups there to Piggy being able to sneak away. And Mikael able to support. That will find us now in a reset. I thought we were getting a nice team fight there. Unfortunately, things go back to normal.
Buff Enjoyers more or less looking to escape there. You have to remember, you do have a big separation from Zergy and Listic, and ultimately it's numbers disadvantage in a game where you're already so far in behind. I like this, though, in response. You've got Piggy on that urn. This is something to hopefully at least bring it back to a place of even potential. They don't have as many players on the board here to secure for this urn, but it doesn't look like in response Mahjong and Krill are doing much in return to set up. So probably to equivalize with the 1-for-1 here. Oh, but here comes Ivy.
Airdrop up and over the top. Piggy, oh my, just deleted. And the pause? Okay, it seems like everybody's experienced some lag. I don't know if that was lag or what, but that health bar was erased.
It's an issue, and it brings up the potential now of Mahjong and Krill to be ever-present on this map. Remember, it was in positioning that gave Buff Enjoyers the confidence to sustain for this urn, and it is immediately chunked out instantaneously there, of course, by this major combo. The Ivy closing the gap with Hydration. Sandwich, of course, being in the lead already with this Lash to deliver the final blow. I don't know how legitimate we'll say that kill was, especially with the call-outs towards that lag, but ultimately it is still something for Buff Enjoyers to worry about. Cross-contamination, moving so many of these heroes around the map with a speed to play around the airdrop is something that makes even simple stuff like urn, wave control, or anything else not as clear or confident.
Yeah, and this is kind of the direction a lot of these games go as we get a little bit later. Death ball, right? You're moving around as a team so often. I think we saw early in stage 1, or the first day, we saw a lot of players, well, the McGinnis wall helped to this, but a lot of players getting picked off, a lot of players being in just the wrong spot of the fight. So moving around as 5. I also think we got a little bit of a gentleman's agreement there, right? Piggy goes down. Hey, let's not push this advantage that we have because it doesn't seem fair. So they clear out their waves. Things essentially equal across the board in terms of the wave management. And now that we've got Piggy back online, 6 players strong for both of these teams. Mid-boss still an option. Look at the mini-map, though, right? How much of the jungle creeps, right? The denizens are gone. This is what separates a good team from a bad team, right? Is your ability to stay on those timers to keep getting that farm.
It's the reason why lead hasn't exploded aggressively for either one of these teams in all their respective games. Mahjong and Krill might be ahead here, and they're doing a great job to keep it toe-to-toe when we talk about farm, but it's the same can be said for Buff Enjoyers. I will say, playing the death ball situation yet, like you were kind of bringing up, it's lane management, right? Just trying to sustain what could be potential pushes ahead. You've already lost double walkers, so you to put heavier priority towards York and Greenwich. Issues always arise, of course, with that urn rearing its head for both sides of the map, but sticking to that game plan is always potentially enough to at least help them work their way back into it. It has not ballooned past this 10K lead for the past roughly 10 minutes now.
Yeah, and also, at the same time that urn spawns, I'm going to hold that thought. Listic may be in a tough spot. Rocker and Hawk here, 4 players strong, are buff enjoyers as they look to catch somebody out, but a death ball just around the corner. That's going to force them back. No, inside the veil they go. Seismic impact comes down, and Hydration caught out for just a moment. Rocker looking to get aggressive with the goo ball, going deep behind enemy lines, trying to buy some time and some space as the wall cuts off 1 at 7 on the opposite side, and Zergy, not long for this world. 7 gone, and this one's been turned around once more by Mahjong and Krill.
We talk about power potential, the 20K soul lead on Zergy there, one of the highest farmed individuals now, no longer available for defense. This could be opening the access for things like the Walker, potentially more KP, Tanner.
Yeah, looking like it. The Warden able to sneak away from that one, but just biting off more than they can chew. They go a little deeper than they can afford. They wrote a check, and McGinnis is at the bank and said, no, you cannot cash. And look at the swap, though. Huge swap onto Samps. Can they make good on this? Inside the cube. Finding word comes down, but it doesn't matter just yet. Do we get the dome? Is somebody going to invest? How much is going into the Lash who survives? But only for a moment longer. So make it 2 actually going down as Rocker falls in that same exchange. So a beautiful response by Buff Enjoyers.
Really big separation on the map, notably for Mahjong and Krill. Leffa is still pushing out that side wave, and 2 on the other end between both respectively Hawk and Hydration. Now setting up for Rejuvenator. It's not a complete dominance, but with 25 seconds on the board, a 4v6 situation, Leffa still far and away. Gale start out with the swap.
Yeah, Hydration gets caught out there, forced to use the stone form, trying to survive, but can't do it for too long. Dimov also going to go down here, so we're trading back and forth. My question is the telekinesis maxed out for Wraith, right? Do they actually have a way to steal away the Rejuvenator?
The pressure applied by Listic to keep every way. Over on the side. They're going to delay with the dome for now. Punch available.
There's the telekinesis.
On Buff Enjoyers.
And it's Buff Enjoyers secure it. Through it all, Buff Enjoyers secure it. Piggy bought time for the telekinesis, but it was not enough for Mahjong and Krill, but now they need to take the fight. Bodies continue to drop. It's Hawk, the next to fall, as Hydration still waiting on the sidelines, but the fight is going the way of Mahjong and Krill. Zergy sneaks out alive, the only one to survive, but the Rejuve buff is getting everybody back online quickly.
It's still big wins there. Buff Enjoyers here now with Rejuve in their pocket. They take advantage of the duo. It does come at the cost of this entire roster, but it is inklings of hope. Can't say much has been sustained in terms of pushing back that soul lead, and they haven't been able to put themselves in the driver's seat, but it is double walkers on the board. We're even for flex, we're even for objectives. All that matters is continuing to play or delay here. Earn to be potentially secured. Mahjong and Krill taking it far and back, especially with that lane in their favor.
Yeah, it feels like Mahjong and Krill kind of fell asleep at the wheel when it comes to the urns. They had given up a couple, but now they're right back to it. This time, however, Buff Enjoyers, they're posturing to fight this. 3 players still have the Rejuvenator.
This is tough. You don't get Earn here. Listic with early setups. There's a wall that cuts off the available action. Hawk is stuck within this corner, and immediately as it comes down, might find response. Airdrop from above, as we can hear just distances away. The Wraith trying to lift. Doubles found.
Yeah, telekinesis good there inside the kudzu bomb as well, so taking damage, slowing everybody down. Samps now put in a really tough spot. There's no way out for the last. Tries to ult and survives for a moment longer and goes back to it. Was that another telekinesis?
Potentially refresher on board. Picks up a swap of 4 here now for the Mahjong and Krill roster. Mikhail's looking for escapes to be found, but ultimately it is major wins here for Mahjong and Krill. If there was they'd be counting their blessings, but ultimately it is another whopping team fight in their favor. And I gotta say, it has to do with the DPS scalers. They're just too strong, Tanner.
They are. I mean, and that started in draft. While we were watching it, you and I, we're talking about Wraith and Furnace going 1 and 2 for Amber Hand. That feels criminal, because with the Haze band away, you're starting to get choked out of these scaling heavy and high DPS. You're forced into the Vindicta, you're forced into the Yamato, and the Yamato hasn't been doing the job.
No.
It feels tough, but Buff Enjoyers have found glimpses of hope in this game. They're obviously not out of it yet, but that floating, that waiting 10k lead for Mahjong and Krill, it's starting to increase quite a bit.
Yeah, the double loss of the team fight is a huge mistake there from Buff Enjoyers, and they've been playing it so smart, delaying their pace of action, but in combination with what was a Rejuvenator fight that almost went awry, and then, of course, the loss there, this could be something that potentially balloons things. We talk about where those soul leads are. Obviously, objectives haven't been a bigger puzzle to the picture, but even getting towards past that 30k mark, you're talking about 3 potential max abilities, heavy AP points online, especially with double earns secured. We're looking at a much more powerful roster in comparison, just based off of soul lead and earn alone.
And I'm wondering, we're in kind of a lull state, right? Let's go farm the Denizen again. Let's pick up all the souls that are available on our half of the map. If our observers could hear us, if we could take a look at Wraith,
yeah,
to see if there is a refresher or if I was just losing my mind. Because I swear we saw telekinesis before that fight kicked out, and then another one, and it is refresher Wraith. That is insane. It's not insane like it's a bad play, but it's insane like, oh my god, this exists. This is terrifying.
I mean, it is a huge potential issue for anybody now getting involved in these fights. And we talk about things like the surge of power that you can see there as well. That's a massive boon to what I can only assume is, of course, her cards. The improved burst as well makes her an absolute threat when we talk about power potential. Yes, the telekinesis is good, but you know, we talk about spirit resistances getting partially gutted, and these carries like the Wraith, like the Infernos, adapting with the mixed damage, but of course with that spirit profile to be so oppressive. This is just one example of that, and having now double wombo available, of course, refresher is just absurd, because it's not just that, it's also additional scale.
Yeah, Sam's in a tough spot again, though. Look to try and ult out of this one. Beautiful swap there from Mikhails, and a rescue beam from downtown. What can't the McGinnis do? Well, from a static charge, and the lightning ball cannot survive there. As we go telekinesis, everybody lifted up. The gun damage not doing a whole lot. How much more can they supplement with? Stoneform coming down as Ivy finds the stun, and Dimov has been erased.
I'm telling you, it comes back to the cards there. Now it's up to Lefa to prove where the spirit also exists. Binding finds its launch, but in response, Hydration is here to potentially play for defense. Up and over on the edge, ult to be expended as Rocker now picking things apart on the other side. Listic, surprisingly, I was about to say, should not be allowed to escape this.
Yeah, good movement. We saw good movement from both Sherrick and Listic there. Sherrick goes down on that Warden. Listic survives, but again, at what cost, right? Your Abrams is alive, but another urn has been secured. Another team fight goes the way of Mahjong and Krill, and now 40,000 souls separate these teams. Now, 40,000 souls is a lot, okay? Objectives, how do we put this, right? 40,000 souls is a lot, but your ability points is really what matters. And these objectives, 5 or 6 more ability points go into the side of Mahjong and Krill. Those urns, 6 more ability points go into the side of Mahjong and Krill. So even if this was a close game in Way of Souls, it just the strength there, the what is it, the latent strength that would just be in Mahjong and Krill because their abilities are stronger, it puts them so far ahead, man. These objectives, these urns, so important.
I mean, I completely agree, and it ultimately comes back when we look at specific individuals like Lefa, like Hydration. Of course, you know, Sharky potentially coming online here in a little bit as well. You know, we sit at that 30k mark, which is roughly around a 3 max ability for AP. You get to that 40k range, and it is guaranteed. But the thing that most people never keep track of is the fact that if you are sustaining with these objectives more than not appropriately, you're likely already at those power spikes well before you even hit that soul lead. So the souls can be distracting in terms of something that we do watch, because in the end, they are, you know, everything this game. They're your itemization, they are your AP, they push you forward the full extent. But it is those additional secrets that may not be as highlighted that are, like you said, basically procuring latent power for the Mahjong and Krill roster. And I mean, this was an issue potentially spelled out in Draft Tanner. That's the bigger topic here. You know, these were major pickups on the hero rotation that were going to become a problem if Buff Enjoyers didn't put a stop to it.
Yeah, and this has been really exciting to watch, right? We have a little bit of a pause. We come back to it. The length at which, obviously, when two teams are really strong, you're going to have a good game. But the length at which this game is lasting, we're starting to get the Soul Rebirths online. We're starting to see flex spots become available, which they're just about all available for Mahjong and Krill. We're still missing a couple for Buff Enjoyers. But I feel like the games in Deadlock, they come down to that 20-minute mark where a team is just trying to push the pace a little too much, and they get punished for it. Right now, Mahjong and Krill are very far ahead, but they're still managing this lead. They're keeping this lead. They're making sure that it doesn't get too far out of hand, as Piggy's got one hell of a view up there.
Oh, hopefully from that view he can spot the 4 Soul Rebirths online here for Mahjong and Krill. I don't know if he'll be able to sniff that up from his roost upon height, and hilariously one that was arguably shared on both sides, playing very defensively over the Rejuvenator from Sherrick as well here. I worry for this former, or at least upcoming team fight.
Yeah, nobody wants to pull the trigger. That's the scary thing. We also see the way that these ultimates work. You don't want to ult until this person ults, because if this person ults, it cancels your ult, and things get so awkward. So you have to be perfect. Fortunately for Mahjong and Krill, obviously having a huge lead, but also being able to just slam the big red stop button, the eject button, having that spectral wall. There it is. We trade spots now. High ground goes over to M&K, and this mid boss is going to be started. Okay, this is M&K pushing the pace.
Time to move in here. Buff and Jor's not far and away. The dome always available to slow what might be that Rejuvenator now, but I don't think they want to get completely involved, right? They're trying to pull Buff Enjoyers in, Tanner.
Exactly. 60%. The Temple Guardian screams out to now they're trying to find anybody overstepping here for Buff Enjoyers, but they're privy to this. Listic just on the outside is going to take height once more. Yeah, talk about the movement, huh? Going up top, though, might just meet Sharky here. Are they on the same level, or is Listic one higher? It's getting weird over there.
Just trying to fleet between the embers, and that is a big...
Home use the cube use. Hydration in a tough spot. Well, fall off the high ground here. They fight just outside the mid boss. What can Samch find? Going in with the grapple. Death Slam gonna find the knockup. This, okay, it's also a telekinesis to find Listic there. So the tanks are gone. Meanwhile, the rest of the team being whittled away as Leffa runs them down, hits the mouse one, and this mid-boss that you baited for so long, M&K, it's yours.
It's utterly excellent. We saw what was Piggy posturing earlier on, and I don't want to say that's the callus, because it could have been multiple things in our viewing angles, but ultimately, it doesn't change the fact that we see Buff Enjoyers casually picked out, and just impeccable setup there. Stone form from Hydration sends Piggy to his end after what could have been potential steals. Beautiful. It's the micro details. It's the little things to just give what feels like a whop of a defeat potentially here for Buff Enjoyers now.
That was a little too close, but like you mentioned, stone form, spectral wall, all of that denies there, so Piggy can't get that heavy melee. And I love this. Again, right? Everybody's gone. Everybody's dead on the side of Buff Enjoyers. We're not deathballed as M&K, and we're not just trying to push and win the game because there's so much delay. Sure, they're here, but they just secured the urn. Now they should back away and wait for Leffa to get into this fight as everybody comes alive, but it's only 5 players strong for Buff Enjoyers. They don't want to take a fight without Piggy here. They might have to.
Spectral wall down. We can already see the swap in play.
Yep, swap comes through. Mikhail's trying to find something. Out goes the Wraith. The Sharky dodges away from the Patron who's doing the damage, but the bodies are starting to drop. It's Hawk, it's Hydration, it's Sharky finally getting cut through, and Piggy's made his way back into the game. He's no longer looking at a gray screen, but he's looking at a big blue Listic who can't do anything here as the Patron just gets deleted. Listic gonna try his hand as he charges into Hawk. He's saved by the wall, but he's not saved for long. Listic falls. Kelvin, the only one that stands. And it's time now that separates M&K from winning this game as that Patron resets. Okay, Frozen Shelter, buy some time. Piggy's dead, but the game is still going to go the way of M&K. A dominant performance here in Game 1.
Going to dominate game number 2.
2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2 Game number 2. 2
I'm not sure if we've got Keg Shouts on the desk or Keg's Shills on the desk. Either way, my name is Team Liquid. I am joined by Coinbase. My name is Tanner Metro. I am joined by Zephyr. Sorry. We are locked in for our game 2. Zephyr, as we look to get ready for this one, what did you think of the draft?
Not bad. I do think getting the option to have that Viscous and Ivy over there, of course, paired alongside some potential power pressure with the Mirage, is breathing a little bit more life into buff enjoyers than what we got to see out of that last game. The slower kind of build up of things like the 7 and Warden, we've done away with that. We've completely shifted the gears, and they should, especially in some of these lane to early mid game, be a lot more take these fights confidently and feel like they're in the driver's seat. That doesn't change the fact that Mahjong and Krill have a phenomenal setup and an absolutely explosive roster that can run through if they get the opportunity, but I just like the fact that there's more to work with here.
Yeah, a little more sustained damage. We saw how much damage Hydration did with the Ivy. I would imagine building that gun Ivy, but it's been so strong since the recent changes. Kudzu Bomb got some buffs for spirit damage just in general. It was Refresher Ivy, so you can ult, go up top, start throwing down bombs. You really are your own little airstrike. But now it's in the hands of presumably Piggy, who is kind of an Ivy one trick, right?
Yep.
So it's a very scary pick to have for buff enjoyers. My question is, what do they do about the McGinnis? Because they let it through again, which tells me they probably have a plan.
You know, ultimately, I didn't put priority towards that ban because there are some more extensive picks that need to go away there. And while we do see things slide on through, the McGinnis ultimately is countered by so much of her lack of presence that can exist within these team fights due to things like the setup required. And while, yes, the major walls have such a big impact in those micro moments, they are micro moments, right? And basically supplying what is good analysis of the cooldown spectrum of the McGinnis before you get into these fights and playing around it effectively, not overextending, not positioning poorly, not putting yourself in the place where the McGinnis gets to have access to these things and deliver them beautifully, is exactly what we need to see out of buff enjoyers if they're going to work around it. Because if you let her go and you're just kind of willy-nilly going into these fights, it's just free potential wins there for you in some of the action. I think they've got the opportunity to make a good response though.
Yeah, and do you think that the sustained damage, bringing in the Ivy, bringing in the Vindicta, the Yamato,
Yes.
do you think that that is a strong answer in way of the wall doesn't completely just blow up our engage, right? Before it felt like, hey, we've got to pop somebody, right? We've got to swap them and pop them. That was kind of the name of the game, and the wall threw a wrench. Now that there's sustained damage, it's like, hey, let's just wait out the wall, and then we're going to start mouse one again.
Sure, sustained damage, sustained verticality. You have a little bit more flex when it comes to how you engage these rosters, whether we're talking about through the IV or potentially working with that Vindicta. Spirit scaling does exist extensively in both regards there, so it can be particularly good. It's not as absurd as some of the damage scaling we've seen on the other side for late game things like that Wraith and, of course, the Infernus. But, I mean, Ivy just delivered an absolute wallop in the hands of, notably, of course, what was Mahjong and Krill. So anything's possible here, though.
Anything is possible. Game 2, Mahjong and Krill, your Amber Hand. Buff enjoyers, once again, your Sapphire Flame. And it's Mahjong and Krill, the team. One game, the lead.
One to lead. One final blow to deliver here to send yourself to finals in what some could even consider upsets in the early stages of Deadlock. Leads to be sustained, and what is already big action ahead. Walls picked out, and Hawk, of course, and Rocker starting off early here with the pressure in lane.
Yeah, pushing that wall forward, looking to get aggressive. And it's so strong for denials, right? You push the wave underneath the turret. They don't want to step up to melee because they're going to get you. There's not a lot to hide behind when you're right here at your turret, and it allows for that pocket and that McGinnis to delay. Dimov this time a little more aggressive than we saw on the pocket, that Yamato allowing a bit more breathing room against this Infernus, who needs to be careful. No, yeah, just going right in underneath the Guardian. No stun there, and Leffa the first to go down once more.
Now, granted, this is kind of what we saw last time around here, notably getting pressured out in so many ways in the early gone. D-Mob, of course, being an absolute threat. Granted, this one a bit earlier this time, so maybe that's something that does potentially push Leffa out and away, but granted, should hopefully be a little bit more respectful.
And Hydration's now been forced on the Lash, was the Ivy in the game previous. So we'll see how Hydration pilots this one. With the game getting tournaments so early and the champion or the hero pool not being incredibly deep, right? 22 heroes now. It's been really refreshing to see how flexible a lot of these players are, right? The heroes themselves are pretty flexible in that they have a couple of jobs they can do. But everybody's filling different roles when it comes to playing tanks to, I guess, I say tanks, but beefy boys, we'll call them, to playing DPSs. We've got Zergy, who typically plays a hyper DPS. Not that Mirage can't be that, but he is a little more utility with that Tornado, good damage on the Fire Scarab, stealing away some of that max health. So to shout out the flexibility of these players being able to fill multiple shoes.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out with that Mirage, definitely a threat. Definitely something to worry about as we get into the mid to later stages of this game, especially with the Spirit Resist scaling that we were talking about earlier. He's in prime real estate for being a potential issue in a lot of these fights. And we talk about also the advantage of Buff Enjoyers getting free response time. Traveler is a huge boon to teams, and it's not something that exists in any other way, especially when you take the Ivy and put it on your side as well. That's your only other option outside of, I don't know, 4-second teleporter.
And speaking of teleports, one available. Ball goes up. No escape here for Zergy. But again, it's just pressure underneath the Guardian. Health bars, not the best on the opposite side. Rocker maybe a little lower than he would like to be. We'll see if that Medicinal Spectre pops up there for the McGinnis. And again, Leffa goes down, but another response, right? 2 kills away. Buff Enjoyers, they've been running away with the early game, finding some early kills, and now the pressure goes right back the other way. They're not letting it go. Zergy's trying to show us just how strong this Mirage can be.
We'll say D-Mob has been absolutely delivering in these early games, and now on the Yamato, an absolute weapon, potentially. Not to say that the pocket was any worse or left to non-advantage there, but we can potentially see a lot of this team fight potential be very, very dangerous, especially if this lead continues to sustain. I do want to highlight what was that other take over towards what I believe on the side of Greenwich. You gotta really respect the Vindicta. Tails, of course, in the sky there is something that provides a lot more angles in LOS that you're not particularly used to, especially if you're dealing with something like, of course, the Viscous here for Sherrick, and geez, Rocker.
That's big, right? Having Leffa having such a hard time, you need to get pressure elsewhere, and Rocker does just that. 2 big kills the way of Rocker. It still doesn't feel great because Mahjong and Krill are down a Guardian now, and that's completely opened things up for the Yamato. Not only, this is what I love, right? You know, you got to take small bites. You got to chew it and swallow it down. We've seen teams get a little too greedy, a little too gluttonous. Find the kill onto Leffa, take the Guardian, take the camp right next to him, right? Take that tier 1 Denizen camp, just back away, look to go play with the team. Right now, Yamato has a lot of rain on this map and is moving left to right. We'll see if they can back up Listic moving across the map there.
Guardian potential. We're going to see swaps ahead here to start things off. Puddle over on the side of Shushin stuck in the corner. Even with the goo ball available, you're done and dusted. No kind of resistances will help you survive there. So another major pickup for the likes of Mahjong and Krill, and one that likely leads to the potential escape here of Hydration. Out and away, no assassinate to catch you in your tail.
No assassinate. It looks like the stake maybe not available either, so does sneak away. D-Mob, however, did work their way across the map, so Rocker does go down. Listic helped out here, and our outer Guardians about to both be down on the side of Mahjong and Krill. They do get one in response. It looked like Leffa pushing that lane pretty aggressively. It'll only be a matter of time before this one goes down. Maybe Rocker can force him off of this one, allow this to survive, but oh, okay, wait, getting crazy. Listic hangs out for long. The barrage damage amp, you must respect it, and Rocker showing us why.
There you go. Affliction sustained on the other end as well to easily secure that kill. Notably, we do see further rotations over on the side to guarantee we see some of the knocks on the drops. Once again, Mahjong and Krill going to see if they can pick up a bit more stone form for the initial knocks, and Listic's already removed.
Yeah, huge stone form there. Unfortunate that they can't keep pushing it forward, really, because Listic has been erased here, but a big stop on that heavy barrage. At the end of the day, dust settles. It's a 1-for-1. But a big pickup. I mean, it could have been way worse if Piggy didn't stop that ultimate from McGinnis.
Other sides on the angles, looking for Carbine. Walls down, Pulse Grenade as well, up to the sky, just in time with a combo swap into the wall there for Sherrick to be absolutely blitzed.
And airdrop comes through, tries to answer back with the stone form. Nobody found, so Piggy just gonna back away behind the Guardian. A lot invested there from Mahjong and Krill to find that kill onto Zergy. Now Listic maybe under fire a bit more. Leffa forced to use that flame dash out to safety. And once more, the dust settles, but this time it's Mahjong and Krill coming out ahead.
Something I want to at least discuss in this early game is how good we have seen Mahjong and Krill try to bounce with the pressure on some of these early objectives. Well, we'll enjoy causing them to find themselves picked in more ways than one, leading to a return on some of these Guardians, especially alongside pickups like, of course, that McGinnis that has already shown such a big advantage early here.
And Listic spotted out hydration there. The stake just a step short, so they couldn't lock that lash down, stop him from taking those tier 3 denizens inside the temple Guardian den. Things have slowed down just a bit. I was wondering when we point, right? Everybody was postured up, looking to take another fight. We saw Sharky for a second, maybe trying to find a flank. Go ahead.
Torment Pulse online already here for the likes of course, D-Mov on this Yamato. We talk about the power potential when he was on the pocket last time around. Definitely a pressure, a monster. I'm curious to see what this might potentially bring up for these potential mid-game fights soon here. It's if potential access in the next 3 minutes or so could be massive there, already at a sustained lead.
Yeah, and 3 damage, right? You're invulnerable, you're about to die, but you're just hitting with the Torment Pulse. Speaking of about to die, Listic once more finds himself in the alleyways.
Whoa!
As he ults away to safety, but the rest of the team is here, and hydration is not Samch. There's no way to survive. Fortunately, Rocker found Listic on the way out. Now Piggy looking to get aggressive here, sending some shots down range, but could not quite find the damage onto Rocker. Now they've been forced to back away as Rocker, okay, unsuspecting delivery. We'll see if this Ivy can sneak away. Heavy melee to try and sneak around the corner. Stone form for a second, going forward, huge damage with the Satchel Cloak combo, and another elimination found in favor of M&K.
Now, the other side of the map, we talk about all the way over by Park Avenue. There is response sustained there. You pick up the one. Sharky going down at the hands of Sherrick.
yeah. I knew that was going to be difficult for us on the day. Yep, yeah. It's going to be difficult for us to manage that one. Listic is still a step forward, but now being backed up. D-Mob's here, but again, look at the damage, forces out the ultimate. So the transformation comes through, invulnerable. Now is D-Mob. But can they find anything? No, the rest of the team is here from M&K. It's just an ult out to safety. Guardian still stands here. Downtown Greenwich is safe for now.
See how they might set up there. Still a lot of health to go to be recovered. Rejuve officially online. Earn as well. Does look like Buff Enjoyer is in a bit more of the driver's seat to at least set up for that if they get on the priority. Remember, we talk about things like that Ivy being available with the rotation. Not quite Mirage anymore in terms of discussion. But notably, I do want to bring up, even though we might not see the Earn play with the Mirage anymore, the potential on both sides of the map is still very much something they have to be ready for. 20 seconds to go does make it a bad timing for the Mirage in terms of Earn play right here with what looks like already, yes, I mean, Mahjong and Krill doing a much better job of highlighting the control over it, but something to watch out for.
Yeah, one grapple goes awry, maybe looking for another. Death Slam still available, but hydration is not. Mikhails will snipe him from the skies, and they assassinate just enough to find an early kill. Now, not only are you a player down from the death, but you still got somebody running the Earn, so only 4 players strong as one walks away into the base. Hawk going to invest the ultimate, that heavy barrage, to try and take down the Guardian here, shielded for a moment. The minions will help make that one possible. And finding that kill, back and forth we went, right? 1 for 1, but the Urn picked up, a Guardian picked up. Lefa does get traded, but, I mean, this is AP out the wazoo for MNK.
Yeah, big leads, like you said, that latent power that we'd have to check out there. Something to worry about. I want to see major responses. Most of these early Guardians still on the field. That's one in Greenwich. We've got the remaining, I believe, over towards Broadway for now. And with Wave pushing, I mean, it's just continuing to delay pressure, delay action.
Back to the jungle we go. Denizens available here as we kind of take a peek across the top right. Who's got the souls where? Rocker on the pocket. Listic just going so deep, punishing Hydration, who just has not been able to come online. Hydration cannot play the game. They invest so much, and they get him again.
Notably on their side, Downtown here caught out. That's not something you would expect, especially in the safety of your Clarity. Notably what I believe was the chapel there. It is the opportunity, though, for us to see a slight move forward now with that pressure from Buff and Joyce. Secure that final Guardian off of the pressure, pushed over to the side of Park Avenue for them to kind of even out this game here. Still, no one's taking double walkers. That's the next big thing to watch out for. Wave pressure far more balanced this time around, I would say, Tanner.
Yeah, it hasn't been so heavily one-sided. Buff and Joy is doing a good job making sure that things don't get too incredibly deep. We are also 12 minutes into the game. We haven't seen anybody really just trading like we saw in the first game. We saw a couple of times, you know, hey, we'll sacrifice a life here, but we're going to get a walker there. We'll see if that makes an appearance as we get deeper in the game. Hydration's back online, and although Hydration's been set a little bit behind, he's still sticking around in Way of Souls, so he hasn't been punished too heavily, whereas we see Mikhails and Piggy just both under 10k on the Vindicta and the Ivy respectively. Vindicta is somebody who I think is going to get a whole lot stronger this patch with how strong the bullet resist has gotten. Having that hybrid, you can kind of match some of the damage that you would get from your Infernus and your Wraith. So I really expect some investment into that Vindicta soon.
I personally think it is tougher, though. You know, it is the Vindicta, especially without appropriate itemization, single target oriented, poor positioning, and just even the minute instance of procure good LOS means you're kind of down and out for a good fight. And granted, that's an expectation just to highlight. It's Mikhails. That's not something I'm particularly worried about. It's just when we go back to the overall topic of ease of execution, having just the straight M1 beamage from something like a Wraith or Infernus can be such a difficulty to intercept. Not to mention you have absurd spirit utility between the pocket, of course, as well as that paradox. So doable, very doable. Just a bit tougher, and you might see some of those micro weaknesses highlighted as we get into some of these deeper team fights.
Yeah, Pocket took a weird hit. Pocket really went glass cannon with this patch, already being minus 15 spirit resistance off the rip, and then spirit resistance getting harder to get means that, you know, Pocket's put in a tough spot defensively, but his abilities, however, have really started to amp up that affliction, getting a whole lot stronger. And I mean, in the hands of Rocker, we've seen a couple of double kills. We see Rocker sitting at 15k souls as we posture just a bit. Maybe MNK. No, they're actually wanting to fight for this buff here. 5 seconds, this comes available. Mirage stepping forward. I'm not sure which direction this went, but the telekinesis is out. It picks up 2. This is going to force the Goo to try and back away here. Goo Ball used out to safety. They'll go for now. No, looking to find the backstab onto Hawk. Nice. No way out for the McGinnis here as the wall might be available, but it doesn't matter. The snipe comes through. A big pickup there for the Vindicta. And it was not only the pickup there, but maybe some more on the backside. Rocker,
look at the opposite.
Forced to use the affliction there, jumping out. Yep, and here come the trades, right? Walker for Walker we go. MNK getting aggressive on the opposite side. How much more do Buff Enjoyers want? It looks like they'll settle with the Walker, look to back away, and maybe get back in time to fight here, Zephyr.
This could be a good catch if you are perfect on your timing, but remember, so much of the utility was expended for at least catching this team. It is going to be at least the one Sandwich picked off there, but why I can only assume it might be things like potentially maybe a stake or two. Either way, it is a great pickup for them. We see a continuance of, at least now, more balanced leads on both sides. We talk about Walker for Walker. It's toe for toe there, even in the mistakes of overextending for that buff, and it's a big advantage for buff enjoyers. Mahjong and Krill are quick. They are immediately on the opposite side of the map, and while I don't think they should have extended as aggressively as they did for the double Guardians, still, it's a fantastic response in a moment of potential mistake.
Yeah. Mahjong and Krill, they got hit with a few dang that's crazies, and they just weren't getting the hint that they needed to leave. Everybody's left the party. We got to go. The Walker already left, and that right there was why we were here. So dang that's crazy. You got to get out of here, man. Not only do they lose the fight for the buff, they lose the fight for in the Walker, right? They go Walker for Walker, but a kill goes away buff enjoyers. And then because of that, just a free earn. So buff enjoyers were trailing by a couple thousand souls for a little bit. Now they've, got themselves a lead.
This is something I really like to highlight with Yamato, my apologies, so effective in this early game, sustaining at least what was more of a lead for buff enjoyers this time around, more so than when DMob was on that pocket. And of course, now we're starting to see these heavy scalers come online a bit more with the breath of life. Piggy getting more into the action, as well as Mikhail's, of course, on this Vindicta, always on that scaling potential. These are things that we do have to continue to keep tabs on now that they have been given the opportunity to, well, continue to exist here.
What's Piggy doing? He may be trying to listen to see if somebody's getting the sinner sacrifice there. Trying to catch somebody out. Is alone. Not much of a response from anybody. So is just going to hang out for now. Is the wave state again pretty even across the board, but that lead growing for buff enjoyers as they've cleared their side of the streets. One more camp to be picked up, and Piggy happy to go across the map to not only grab that wave, but I'd imagine grab that tier 1 denizen camp.
Time for farm, grouping ahead there. Buff enjoyers have quick response if they are to do so, but at some point like this, they are going to have to separate to maintain and manage. So unable to find potential pickups in that moment of togetherness. Ultimately, that means if there was a pick to go off here now in response from Mahjong and Krill, it's just timing. Timing on the board that they weren't able to capitalize on. Both of these teams, though, ebb and flow, poke and pick, no one really wanting to be the catalyst of the next reaction.
Yeah, we have, I don't know if we'll see a change to the denizen timers, but you take your camp and for a good 7 minutes, you might just be hanging out for a little bit. You might just be waiting. The next fight that we see, never mind, it's mid-boss. Okay, here we go, pushing the pace. What am I talking about? Buff enjoyers looking to get this one started. Nope, they're going to bait it out just as we saw M&K do. But where does the fight come from? Wall already used. If there's no Echo Shard, that doesn't feel great to not have that in the hands of Hawk, and he's just going to get run down, book in the face, and he's forced to back away. Now Lash goes up top, throws him deep behind enemy lines. As we jump into the action here, Yamato deep in it, just as you would expect. Here comes the Shadow Trans. Survive. We'll turn around, find the kill onto Sharky. Now want some more. D-Mob pushing forward. What more is there as hydration? Next on the chopping block, we've traded 2 for 1 thus far. It's actually Mahjong and Krill with the lead for now as Rocker just narrowly sneaks away, finds a kill onto Listic as Rocker does on the way out. And Yamato's going crazy, sure, but the team is dying around them. What more can D-Mob do? Much weight on the shoulders of the Yamato, and no more Shadow Transformation means no more buff enjoyers.
Yeah, ultimately, it is definitely something for them to now go back and look at that fight and say, what could we have done better? Ultimately, the separation that does exist there over by the Walker is something that spells difficulties for that fight working out in their favor, and we got to see it perfectly there from the perspective, notably, of D-Mob. From deep embers diving into the backside, going over towards Walker's side, to the split in the alleyways here between, of course, both, we'll say, Broadway and Park. In the end, it is sustained fights, big rejuvenator, and one of the first major leads we've seen from the likes of Mahjong and Krill. They take great advantage of not buying into the bait, not playing to the tempo that buff enjoyers tried to set up here, and now have the access of a bit more freedom to do with wave pressure to work alongside, and potentially another place for them to get involved, find a pick, and maybe a good team fight.
Yeah, that is so heartbreaking. Again, it really does. It comes down to that 20-minute mark where a team is, You know, maybe, I don't want to say biting off more than you could chew because Buff Enjoyers were set up well. They baited that well. Maybe health bars a little low. A couple of HP off the top from the mid boss just in general. But they could not find anything in that fight. So much pressure on the Yamato to do so much. And Rocker's finding kills on the way out. Hydration only found the Death Slam onto one. And I think it was Piggy who eventually got ulted by that lash, which... Piggy on the Ivy, we saw how strong the Ivy was. Although your Death Slam only gets one in a team fight, that's such a huge pickup to get. I don't know if the Ivy ult is maxed out, but a maxed out ult with Refresher, you're silencing on silencing, you're dropping bombs on bombs. The Ivy can do so much, so a huge pick there. And M&K, not only do they get an earn there, we love that Kappa claps all around, but talk about a reset from their last series where, surprisingly, I think to me, if not anybody else, they got beat. And then they come into this one, they take game one, now they're kind of losing game two, and they're still in this game not giving up.
Ultimately, there's nowhere to go, Tanner. No potential place to hide away here for anyone in this roster. I am curious, notably, I do want to highlight something very different between these two games, and it's not to pick on Piggy in any way. 17k on the Souls is a big disadvantage compared to where we were seeing things last time around when it was hydration on this Ivy. Put into the driver's seat, having the extra itemization available to be a problem is something that has not been given access to for Piggy this game yet. Granted, we continue to go on, it evolves, but for now, it's still something to wait for.
Yeah, they want to try and fight for this Walker here. Death Slam once more, deep in the back lines. Goes D-Mob. Listic trying to get active as well. Shadow Transformation's on, but it's a Shadow Transformation and retreat. Meanwhile, in this 5v6, make it 4v6 as the bodies start to drop. We've got Paradox pushing the side lanes. M&K seem unbeatable right now that they're pushing Buff Enjoyers back, finding kills, and taking everything they could ask for.
If D-Mod had been able to get out there, it could have been a very good pickup for them on the fight. But instead, like you said, it is just a continuance of the pressure here. Now rotating towards central position to play around the Broadway side wall to pick off just the one turret there. Don't know if it's intentional or not. Ultimately secures them the pick, whether they like it here. Potentially now Shrine available as well. Heavy barrage out here to potentially pressure out and away from the side. Getting involved, though. It's a rescue beam to pull all the way back.
Yeah, Listic getting out there. We've seen Listic go a little deep. Thinking going to say, hey, no, come on back. We've still got time on the respawns here. Fortunately, it's just the Shrine. I say it's just the Shrines. That obviously means a lot. But it's not the Patron. It's not the end of the game. It's just a 25,000 soul lead and your base being opened up.
Set up on response. It gets even worse, Tanner. Your jungle, it ain't even yours anymore. Mahjong and Krill are more than happy to split this pressure across the map and continue to lock out the soul potential here at Buff Enjoyers after taking that early advantage to the fight and being able to get out as clear as they did. Rejuvenator might come down here, but it's just perfect timing, taking advantage of the buff to work with here. Granted, time on the board means that we will be seeing Rejuvenator in just a minute or two, and ultimately, it's that fight that hinges for this game as a whole.
Yamato purchasing a couple more items there. Starting to get just as strong as you could hope for there. I'm wondering if two walkers still standing. You're down a flex spot. You're getting close to 30k souls. It's got to hurt for D-Mob, who probably wants one of those soul rebirths online as soon as possible. That way you can just go in, get crazy like you have been, have that soul rebirth pop, and then use that shadow transformation, get a little more life out of that Yamato, but it still hurts. Ern's dropping, however, and this might be our next big fight.
Want to point out the curse available there. We just saw picked up, or notably available on the side of Sandwich. That's something that is incredibly difficult when we talk about singular power picks like D-Mob and more that, I mean, is going to force utility out and for now, continues to expound upon what they are utilizing these leads to build off of when we at least what Mahjong and Krill are doing out in least extent
Impact onto 3, but Listic forced Ducktail and run once. Healthy wants to keep going. Down and off. 2 kills the way of Mahjong and Krill. The urn has fallen and will since be picked up, and everything. M&K Buff enjoys that.
You've got board and full. This roster, it's just an inkling of the issues that have been brewing all game long here, continuing to bolster that lead. Earn here, highlight as well. Want to point out refreshers online, baby. Wraiths on point forward.
Yeah, and a reminder that although the name is different in Mahjong and Krill, this is essentially that Cabal roster plus Rocker, right? Minus Frill plus Rocker. This is the grand finals from previous. This is answering the is kind of an the coin flip conversation, is now showing us that maybe the Cabal would have taken that series. This M&K team looking to put the nail in the coffin here. 40,000 souls the lead. Back online. A lot of teams do a little more than they should, and they get punished for it. So we'll see what the call is from that respawn.
Especially after what was them getting so involved there last time around and then picked apart. It basically guaranteed it for Mahjong and Krill. Playing that one safer, has to be a bit more careful. Ricochet, Diviners, Kevlar, big pickups, of course. Notable that Infernus want to highlight, especially. Meanwhile, Imov getting in deep. Rescue beam from Piggy, though, to pull this one away. Saved by the bell.
Yeah, going back in, though. Seismic Impact, Listic, just keep 4 in there. Stopping combustion will find the stun. The cube is there, but can they survive? Dimov in the mix. Shadow Transformation online, but Listic still so dangerously low as Sharky runs him down. Telekinesis will help him finish the job. And now Sharky slam available, use not much found as the goes up, the goo goes down, Sherrick's gone. Of the rocker alongside. Dimov survives, but at what cost? Nails the corner longer.
On is a it'll be the slow burn, but it just leaves worrisome for what might be the potential that next team fight. They will get one potential opportunity for the full reset and fight to go alongside it. But it is one that has come at the cost of them now 3 times in the row. Mahjong and Krill heavily favoring the driver's seat now. Already set up ahead. The question, do they push lanes alongside this, or do we just keep waiting for those potential picks that Buffingers are more than happy to deliver on a platter?
Yeah, you mentioned it. There allows for to tick down and Buffingers spawn. It felt so disjointed, right? The Dimov having to get out, Listic jumping in onto 4. The fight previous to that, Dimov jumped in onto 3, but he was so far away from the team on the high ground outside the temple. They need to try and piece it all together, and it's been a little too difficult to get those pieces the right spot. And with that, Mahjong and Krill just wanting to take this one down. Shadow Transfer. Get aggressive here on the Sam. Excuse me. Maybe trying to find something. Shadow Transformation, a rejuve used, and this fight can extend, but there's no.
A lot of these fights is one, though, that finds Sharky out and away over towards the side. Remember, still big damage potential available on the board for Leffa on the other angle. It's that massive Ricochet combo that shreds through the likes of Buffinger, and the Patron will do all but the same here.
Yeah, shredding through the Patron as well. Concussive Combustion still available. And your damage dealers, they're alive. Mikhails is up, Dimov is up, but it's only 2. 5 still stand here. Out of the base, they've been ripped, and there goes Mikhail's. The same fate is waiting here for Yamato. As D-Mob jumps into the mix, concussive combustion, it doesn't matter. Just looking to play. Looky here as Mahjong and Krill, they get it done against the Buff Enjoyers.